We're pleased to be joined today by two-time Olympic gold medalist Cheryl Pounder, and she'll be part of CBC's Olympic broadcasts on women's hockey and also on their hockey panels throughout the Olympic tournament. Cheryl, we're pretty excited about Beijing 2022, and I know you are. And let's start with women's hockey. What do you think of Team Canada's chances here going into these games?
Well, I think that anytime you put the Team Canada jersey on, whether you're playing for the men's team or the women's team, there's an expectation of excellence. And when you get there, you are there to perform and you are there to execute and you are there to bring home the gold. And so if you talk to any athlete that's wearing that Team Canada jersey, they'll say the same thing, that they want that gold. They want to be able to stand on the blue line, hear their national anthem play, the best moment ever, and have the chills and get that gold medal wrapped around their neck with their teammates. So for me, I believe that you'd hear the same language coming out of anyone's mouth in hockey heading over to the Olympic Winter Games.
What do you think of the makeup of the team, and who is going to have to lead that club if they're going to have success in Beijing?
Well, Canada is very fortunate to have great depth. And I mean, you have leaders like Marie-Philippe Poulin. I mean, I don't even have to say her name, do I? You know, the amount of big goals that this woman has scored, clutch times, I don't even know what. Her OT winners speak for themselves, but she's the captain of the squad coming off a world championship in August, the first one since 2012. She's even matured further in her game, so you can expect a 200-foot game playing in all situations. But there's a young player that you should keep your eyes on in Sarah Fillier. She has stood up to all of the hype, in particular at the World Championship, the most recent rivalry series, 5 goals leading Team Canada. Her crossover speed, her IQ, the ability to say, you know what, D, why don't you just turn your toes a little bit and I'm going to open the lane I want? Or, oh, you know what? Now I got you beat. I'm going to take you one-on-one. So she's just got that incredible IQ. Really looking forward to her. And Jamie Lee Rattray, I think Sens fans may know her
Yes,
because she
you
is
beat
from
me
the
to it.
region.
I was going to
And
ask you about her.
yeah,
Sorry, go
don't
ahead.
worry. I got her covered because she's probably one of the most versatile players on the team. Like a Swiss Army knife, can play 1 through 4 and an impact player. I mean, she'll put up some goals. She will get limited ice time, and then she'll find herself in a situation saying, you know what, I got to turn the momentum around on this team. And she jumps on the ice, and guess what? It's going back in Canada's corner. So I think these are some players, along with Blair Turnbull, who will drive the third line, that we can really look for. But on the back end, there's only 2 players remaining from Pyeongchang. And so they've got a young blue line, but that doesn't mean to say that they don't have strength, skill, and experience in different ways. And we talk about Erin Ambrose in that. Never went to the Olympic Winter Games, but been to multiple world championships. Keep an eye on her. She'll quarterback a power play, a great puck mover, the ability to make a first clean pass exiting her zone. And then you also got players like Claire Thompson. I mean, her first international tournament was in August, and now she's, on the blue line, probably in a top 4 role. So you got all of these layers. You got a lot of youth with a lot of experience. So this blend together is going to make a fast-paced, real physical team with 2 netminders that have limited experience in the big game at the Olympics. Of course, Mashmeyer will be starting getting to her first Olympics, and Desbiens has 1 game from Pyeongchang, but Shannon Zabados is not there. So it is time for a different netminder. So I'm excited to see the stories that can possibly come out of these Olympic Winter Games. And I think there'll be some great ones with the veterans. And I think there'll be a lot of, we'll be seeing our future with the younger athletes.
The Americans are an obvious, they're not the obvious opponent that the Canada is going to have to beat. But is there anybody else you think at these games, Cheryl, that can maybe push the envelope here and could maybe, upset and maybe, be there at the end?
Yes, you're in a tournament. You are in a tournament where you get to a playoff round and it comes down to 1 game. And we watched what Finland did last 2 years ago at the World Championship in 2019, beat Canada, knocked them off in the semis, and then did knock off the U.S., which was controversial, and it got reversed, and the U.S. ended up winning in a shootout. But they have a head coach in Pasi Mustonen who isn't afraid to make some controversial decisions, just cutting Noor Ratu arguably the best goaltender in the world. And we know how important goaltending is, Bruce.
Yes.
So they need it. If the Finns can get strong goaltending with Hirakoski on the back end, in my opinion, is the best defender in the world right now, leading the charge from the back end. The Finns have a top 2 lines that compete with the other countries in the world. So if Pasi Mustonen can work some magic in his coaching and strategy, and they can get some good goaltending, or not good, great goaltending at the right time, they can be a contender as well. And the Czech Republic on the other side, this is a team. They're kind of quietly creeping in, and they played the Finns and only lost by 1 goal in a shootout in December. So we're watching a team with great puck possession skills. Coach Thomas Pacina, we know very well, he used to coach with the Calgary Extreme and Inferno, the women's game, and also a skills coach in the NHL for a number of years. So here's a guy we're starting to see him in the way his team plays. So I think there could be some surprises here, but if Canada and the US play to their abilities, we should see that rivalry come gold medal day.
We've seen on the international stage, Cheryl, that anything can happen. I was there in 2006 when Martin Gerber shut out Canada playing for Switzerland. He said people were dancing in the streets of Zurich, and basically at that point he cost Canada a medal in that tournament. And you look at the situation that the Team Canada men are going into in this tournament. We don't know this team very well. We've seen the names, and quite frankly, they're just names to us because a lot of those players are in Europe. What should we expect in that tournament?
Well, I think on the men's side, you're always, you have to talk about the Americans, the Russians, the Canadians, the Finns, and in particular for Canada. I've had to look at their roster and the mix of youth and experience in terms of, you talk about an Owen Power on the blue line, 6'6". I think everyone gets excited about seeing a guy they wanted to see more of at the World Junior Championship. We know he came off that hat trick, first time ever for a defender to do that against the Czech Republic. But the way this guy moves on the blue line for his size is unbelievable. There's a reason why they talk about this guy in the same breath, which I mean is a tough comparison to say, hey, this guy, I see a little Pietrangelo, or I see a little Victor Hedman in him. So, you got these guys and guys like Mason McTavish, these guys that are physical in the paint. We've seen glimpses of them at the U18 Worlds, and we've seen them at the World Junior. Now we're going to see them playing against men. And it's really exciting when you have a guy like Eric Stahl, who's going to be the leader on this team, who has played for Canada. He's sort of got the trifecta. He's got the Stanley Cup. He's been a captain with Carolina. What he did with Montreal last year, getting to the Stanley Cup final. So there's that mix of experience. But the big thing, the big question mark for Claude Julien and Shane Doan and Scott Solomon is finding the puzzle pieces. Because when you get to a short-term tournament, as mentioned, Bruce, you have to know that they can fit, that it can work, that there's chemistry. We see Demure and I think it's Barbario, who play out of the KHL. They're defense partners there. They have over 971 games together, right? And I think that's really important too, because you got veterans guys that have a calming presence on the blue line with experience, but there's familiarity because they've been playing the season together. So I think there's lots of twists and turns to these games. But hey, Bruce, I played in 2006. And I remember getting ready for our semifinal game, and all of a sudden we hear the roar in the arena, and we can't figure out what's going on. And you're supposed to be preparing, for your semifinal. And we walk in and we just peek in, and it's going into a shootout between Sweden and the United States. And we're all going, this is the impossible, right? Our sports psychologist is now working overdrive, because here we are all watching the game when we're supposed to be getting ready for ours. And it happened. Right? It happened. Yeah. Sweden knocked off the U.S. in the semis, and now Canada was going to play. Well, we had to get through our game. And I think, so there's just that the emotion and the pressure that is tied to the Olympic Winter Games. And that's the great story about it. When the puck is dropped, in particular with those countries that can challenge, not in a 7-game series, but in one game, what can happen? And so that's the fun of it. That's sport, and not just hockey, but in everything we're going to watch. And we all need some hope and optimism right now. So I'm looking forward to some real good stories.
Well, and the NHL players won't be there, but part of me, when I first started in this business in 1986, Canada had a national team under Dave King
Yeah.
that played out of Calgary. And do you think at all, and basically that's how the women's program works, should Canada should Canada readopt that model and to
This is tough. This is a tough one for me because I like best on best.
okay.
And a lot of people might disagree, amateur or not amateur, but either which way you choose to do it, though, if it's going to be best on best, then yes, your NHL players go. If it's not best on best, do you centralize or do you allow these leagues? And part of the reason why centralization does happen for the women, in my opinion, too, is because there is that lack of professional unified league right now, and so bringing the women together to train full time, and I really want people to understand that these women, yes, it's a sacrifice when they're willing to make because they love the sport, they wear their hearts on their sleeves, and they would do it any day of the week. And that's what they do. They leave their homes, they train full time for the better part of 6 months to try and make this team, and nothing's a done deal for a lot of them. And so, they get that opportunity to work with the, top, psychologists, sports psychologists, and top trainers and coaches and staff to be able to excel. However, there's a thought process around, okay, well, what if we had a league and they were playing in this league consistently, and would it be better to be playing those games? And so there is a big marker around that, and playing time. So I think that's also a piece you have to look at, Bruce, is how that all works out, right? And what's available to the players so that they can reach their potential outside of a centralization process. And so for me, when athletes are in school, in the NCAA or in the CIS, I think it's youth sport. I think it's really important because they're there, they're training every day. But if they're not in that environment, then something needs to change.
Last question for me. You will be on a big part of CBC's coverage. How many games in the during the?
Geez, I don't know. I think, you put me on to task here. I am doing some of the men's game. I think, and it's, don't quote me on this one, but I think I'm in around 19 games that I'm doing in the booth with Brian.
And how many days?
So you're going to hear me and talk a lot.
How many days? 19
there
games.
till the 17th. I'm
Wow.
going to be at CBC till the 17th of February. So I will be calling hockey, talking hockey, watching hockey, reading and watching video about hockey, and just like every other day of the year.
Well, good luck, Cheryl, and thanks for joining us today. For Post Media in Ottawa, I'm Bruce Garrioch, and thanks again to two-time Olympic gold medalist, Cheryl Pounder.